Spooky music for a spooky deck. How's it going, guys? It's Vengeful Shadows here, and we're going to do a real quick video about tier elements and how to out them and beat them when matching them in a tournament, okay? So, they have recently hit the TCG very hard with the Ishizu support cards, kind of crashing through the meta, becoming the next tier 0 deck, and a lot of people are actually wondering what it is to counter the deck right now, and it's a little bit hard because a lot of your deck actually gets milled in the process, so you kind of have to set up in turn 1 or turn 2. We're going to be giving you a few cards here of how to out them. Some kind of basic ones that you've been seeing a lot of, and some that you will hopefully be using in some matchups to out them with them not knowing what you're doing. And guys, as always, if you have been arriving back here to view us and haven't hit that subscribe yet, please do. We are gaining the numbers. But without further ado, let's get on to that list of cards, okay? So as you see right here, we have the best one, which is a Dimension Shifter. Everyone's like, okay, of course, Dimension Shifter is like the card to out Tearlaments, and that is true. It's definitely like the #1 card. If you open it, you use it right out of the gates, you are almost guaranteed the victory against them, okay? And kind of the cool thing I want to point out with the Dimension Shifter is if you're using a Sprite variant or a deck that can easily make a rank 2 play in the turn 1, you can actually use Shifter first, follow up with the Herald of the Pure Light, and then detach off the Herald to add Shifter back to the hand, okay? So then you'll actually have 2 turns, if not 3, of the Shifter being used, completely shutting down the tier element decks, okay? So just kind of keep that in mind if you're playing a Sprite variant, okay? Next up on the list, as we've been seeing, is the Abyss Dweller. Tier element matchup is amazing. When you're using this, you kind of bring it out turn 1. After you bring out a board of other monsters, shut down only the opponent's graveyard, thus just leaving your mills being the ones that are going to be optimal, okay? And then we've also been seeing Super Poly been just crushing against that deck when they go first, bringing out multiple fusions, multiple monsters that can actually kind of, you know, do damage on your board. Activate 1 Super Poly, cannot be negated, and you get to bring, you know, their board to an end and then start your plays right off the rip. Now, obviously, these are kind of some of the staples that you've been seeing against the tier elements. So some of the spicy ones we're going to be bringing up to you today are some cards that are actually just, we have a few that are, some that are just going to be kind of floodgating the opponent, some that are going to be banishing the opponent, and they're just kind of like the all-around good ones, right? So some of the floodgates we have right now are Soul Drain, just for the mere paying of 1,000 life points. Monsters that are banished, as well as monsters in the graveyard, cannot activate their effects. So any of the cards that are being used in the tier element decks that get mailed in the graveyard that activate the effects, whether that be the Ishizu cards or the tier elements themselves, Soul Drain will actually prevent their effects from activating. So that is really cool. Not only will Skill Drain in some of these builds just prevent the monsters on board from playing, but Soul Drain will prevent all the graveyard decks from playing, as well as decks that activate from the Banish Zone, which if I'm pretty sure that hits some of the others in the format as well. So it could be actually a versatile side deck going forward. We also have Silent Graveyard. If Soul Drain is not good enough for your deck, where you either don't want it on the board or your graveyard will be affected for far too long, we have Silent Graveyard. Used to be Forbidden Graveyard, but has been recently changed due to the Forbidden archetype coming out with like Lance and Droplets. So we have Silent Graveyard. Since it is a quick play spell, you can activate it during either your turn or your opponent's turn by discarding 1 card. The effects that activate in the graveyard this turn are negated, so it's kind of a 1-turn Soul Drain. We have the famous Mystic Mine, obviously outing the entire format right now. It is insane still against Tearlaments, as well as a bunch of the other meta. Again, like the reason why, I mean, these are insane, but it is kind of being outed a little bit because they're maining Heartbeat, so it's not a one-stop shop for mine anymore, with a few outs not only in the side deck, but actually being mained by Tearlaments. Like Mystic Mine is still an insane card, but that's why if you're going to be kind of relying only on the mine against them, you're going to want to run more than one, and if you want to risk getting the other one milled. So we also have Necro Valley, okay, and this card has been gaining in popularity, as you know it should be at this time, because basically cards in the graveyards cannot be banished. You negate any card effect that would move a card in the graveyard at all to any different place, and then you negate any card effects that changes types or attributes in the graveyard, okay? So essentially they're not going to be able to shuffle back the cards or banish cards or hit the cards out of your graveyard, returning them to the deck, so essentially shutting down their main plays. And then if you kind of want to go a little weird where maybe you have a graveyard deck and you just want to shut down the opponent's deck altogether, I guess you could stick with non-fusion area. We've been seeing kind of, some people play it, but obviously it kind of falls short when you're talking about setting it against other decks where like Soul Drain, Necro Valley, and Mystic Mine will definitely just be shutting down. And again, if you're going to be relying on these cards, just do be careful because we do have the Tearlaments Heartbeat, just being able to, again, pop your spell trap cards. So just remember that, and if they ever do bring out the Vsauce Starfrost, they can then kind of pop too. So that is just to keep in mind. Other cards that are very, very good against the Tearlament matchup are cards that just completely banish the opponent's cards. Like I said, D-Shifter is an extremely good card, just shuts out the opponent's matchup. Well, we have a few other cards that do that as well. Again, if you can't just play D-Shifter, you don't want to just rely on the one of D-Shifter where you open it, because if you have to play through it and you draw it later, it's kind of useless. We got Different Dimension Ground, okay? So again, kind of a one-turn D-Shifter, one-turn macro trap card. So this turn, any monster set to the graveyard is banished instead. So it's like a one-turn D-Fissure, okay? Since it only goes for monsters. But luckily for us, Tearlaments basically are sending their monsters to the graveyard, and that is what they're wanting to use at that time. So we got Different Dimension Ground right there. We also have the one of D-Fissure as well as Macro Cosmos, okay? So if you're able to activate any of these two cards right there, that's going to be game breaking. Again, we do have the Heartbeat that can pop those cards, so you're going to want to just do more than rely on the one-ofs of those. We've been seeing a huge increase in play of the Bestial lineup. Not only do we have the Magna Hut, but we got the Druid's Worm as well, and I think we got the third, but these ones are primarily insane because not only do they get to target one Light or Dark in either graveyard and banish it to summon themselves, but one will search, and then the other one, actually, I believe, yeah, it can pop a card or send it to the graveyard that was summoned from special on the opponent's board. So that's kind of cool. You got a spot removal as well as an add. All right, so they're kind of slowly but surely replacing the DD Crow. All right, so these were kind of going to be played against Tearlaments, but as soon as the Bestials came out, we kind of swapped over them very hard. If your deck is actually able to play one of the following, these cards are actually really insane when it comes to the matchup. Red Eyes Dark Dragoon has been seeing just kind of an uptick in play right here if decks are able to make it with either the Branded Fusion or the Muddy Mud Dragon. The fact alone that it is the Omni Negate when you pitch a card, bringing it up to 4,000, that's insane. A lot of cards right now are kind of maxing up at about 3,000, 3,200, around that range. So bringing out a monster at 4,000 that cannot be destroyed by card effects and it cannot be targeted, that's where we're getting kind of like insane with the Red Eyes Dark Dragoon. So even if the rest of your board cannot follow suit and you might be losing in some of the resource management, having a Dragoon on board, you're just going to kind of be sitting there with a wall and a nice body. As soon as you get one negate off, being 4,000 again or higher in this meta is just insane. Okay, so I think we're going to be eventually seeing a little bit more play with the Red Eyes Dark Dragoon. A little bit harder to bring out without Burnt Anaconda, but still a very good play indeed. Like I said, we got Branded Fusion with some of the lineups there, as well as the Muddy Mud Dragon. And then again, if your deck is actually able to use Mass Change second, or if you're just playing a hero variant in general, you can go into Mass Hero Dark Law either turn 1 or turn 2, and then essentially, again, with what we saw with D-Shifter, just kind of shut down the opponent's play altogether. All right, so again, these are kind of just some of the nice banishing cards or a wall just to stop the Tearlaments altogether. And just kind of coming back around, the biggest ones we're going to be seeing hit the Tearlaments are just all around the perfect D-Shifter play. Got the Abyss Dweller. We have all the floodgates like the Soul Drain, we have the Necro Valley or Forbidden Graveyard, and then if your deck is even able to make the Red Eyes Dark Dragoon, I would definitely recommend, if you can't do the D-Shifter, somehow fit in Dragoon in there, okay guys, because it will definitely take the deck to the next level, and you're not going to be losing the Tearlament matchup, alright? And guys, again, It's a little shorter video this time. I wanted to shotgun a bunch of nice cards out there without taking an hour long just to explain them. All right, and then no one wants to click on the video because it's 20 minutes long, and I definitely understand that. But if you keep coming back, or if you keep clicking on the videos and keep seeing my face somehow, please hit that sub, share the video, and as always, stay safe. Love you guys. See you next time, and suck it, nerds.